Since 1991, lobbyist Jim Cavanaugh has promoted the legislative position of independent insurance agents of Nebraska and played defense against legislation that could harm members' business. Working closely with the Legislative Committee, Board of Directors, and member volunteers, Cavanaugh takes to the state capitol positions on legislative bills, works with the committee drafting new initiatives, and fights for insurance consumer protection laws. Here's what's happening now in the legislative session.
Hi, I'm Jim Cavanaugh, and welcome to the Independent Insurance Agents of Nebraska Legislative Update. Today's guest is Senator Steve Lathrop from the 12th Legislative District in Omaha. Senator Lathrop is in his second term as chairman of the Business and Labor Committee and was endorsed by the Independent Insurance Agents of Nebraska in his re-election. Welcome, Senator Lathrop.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Senator Lathrop, you've sponsored a couple measures in the 2011 legislative session that have to do with insurance matters that we're interested in. One of them is LB 196 that has to do with automobile financial responsibility limits. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
196 changes the mandatory minimum limits in Nebraska from $2,550 up to $5,100. And I put that bill in, and I was encouraged by some people in the insurance industry, but generally it was my own experience doing that kind of work, which is trial work, and appreciating that $2,550 is just simply not enough for to provide adequate coverage for people that get hurt in automobile collisions.
Now, you work with a lot of people involved in automobile accidents, and over the years, I think that what we've seen is the cost of everything goes up, but the cost, the limit on liability insurance hasn't increased, I think, since 1983. Is that right?
It's been a long time, and Nebraska has done a good job of being the leader in having leader in mandatory minimum limits. But it's been a long time since we changed them in Nebraska, and we've seen other states that have increased them from $2,550 up to $5,100. And one of the concerns that the committee had when I introduced the bill was, are we going to have a bunch of people stop buying insurance? And the experience in other states is no, they continue to buy the policies.
People have said in connection with this that if you exhaust the limits on the current $2,550 minimum limits on someone involved in an accident, that the liability could come back on your own policy for uninsured, underinsured motorists, even though you weren't at fault.
You're exactly right. And the concern is that people who have had an injury that exceeds the responsible motorist's coverage then turn to their own underinsured motorist coverage. And essentially you're drawing against your own policy. And that happens more frequently when the limits are $2,550 than would happen if we raise the limits to $5,100.
So the person not at fault ends up paying for the accident instead of the person who caused the accident in the first place?
Well, the person who caused the accident pays, their carrier throws in the $25 and they get out of it. And then the person who was injured turns to their own policy to collect the difference out of the underinsured.
Another bill that you've sponsored this year is LB 678, and generally speaking it has to do with the issue of credit scoring in insurance. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I'd be happy to. The credit scoring bill, or 678, this is like a 3-year quest for me. And what I found in doing work on this is that the credit scoring has more to do with predicting who is actually going to make a claim against their policy than whether they are a risk to get in an accident or have some calamity befall them. Credit scoring has a place in our society. It should affect whether what my interest rate is and whether a bank will loan me money, but I don't think it has any place in determining what the rates should be for auto insurance or homeowners.
One other area that you as chairman of the Business and Labor Committee have jurisdiction over is workers' compensation. And as head of the Business and Labor Committee, a lot of the workers' comp bills come to you. Could you tell us a little bit about what's happening in the arena of workers' comp this year?
Sure, there are a good number of bills that come in, and each year we seem to get probably 4 or 5 on either side. One One side would be the employers and the other side would be the employees. And they all present policy questions. Nebraska is fortunate to have some of the lowest work comp premiums in the country, which is good. And that's important for our business community and for agents who are selling the product to have affordable rates. And so when we look at various issues in the committee that deal with work comp, we're always focused on what do we need to do to make sure that the premiums are affordable for the businesses. And then we also have to balance that with the social purpose behind work comp, which is to make sure that injured employees are treated, that they get the care they need, and that they're provided some benefits so that they, don't financially go under right after an injury.
One of the areas that we might be of assistance is the area of workers' comp rates. I think you were involved with the rewrite of workers' comp laws under LB 588 about 5 years ago. And one of the questions going forward over that period of time is, has that stabilized workers' comp rates in Nebraska? We have agents all over the state selling workers' comp policies, and we'd be happy to provide you with some information relative to that.
Well, I would appreciate that, because the one thing the committee's trying to do is to determine, when we passed 588, which set hospitals on a schedule for what they can charge for different procedures, is that translating into lower premiums or more affordable coverages in Nebraska, or has it translated into more profits for those who provide the insurance coverages? We need to know that information so that we can make good policy, and if the independent agents can help, I'm always appreciative.
I'd like to thank Senator Steve Lathrop from Omaha for joining us today. Thank you, Senator.
Glad to have been here.
And thank you. This has been your Independent Insurance Agents of Nebraska Legislative Video Update.